Evening, everyone. How are we? Hope you're all well. So this is it then. The final Vardy party goes on as Jamie Vardy plays his last ever game for Leicester City at the weekend then. And yeah, this is going to be an emotional show, to say the least. The final farewell at home for Jamie Vardy as well. And the final Vardy party, as it now comes to a head. Jamie Vardy will leave Leicester City after 13 years at the football club. And yeah, sad times. And Sunday will be his last as he rounds it off on 500 appearances. But yeah, get involved. We're going to go through Jamie Vardy's best bits, best goals. We're going to chat about his career quite thoroughly, to be fair, from where it all started to where he is now. Hit that like button as always. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. It would help me out massively. But yeah, like I say, a lot to discuss. And yeah, there's a lot to obviously look at. But Ellis, how are we? Hope you're well. Weight loss transformation has been utterly incredible, mate. Congratulations. Appreciate that. Manish, how are you? Ross, grassroots to immortality. I'm not going on Saturday. Well, Sunday. I have tickets to the Bournemouth away, thinking it was going to be his last game. Can't lie. A bit more notice from the club would have been appreciated. I'm gutted. Well, you're not the only one who's got a ticket for bloody Bournemouth away. I've got one as well. Obviously, yeah, I kind of thought about that before Vardy's last game. But yeah, let's get the boys in. I'm going to be joined by Steve tonight and Mr. Rob Tanner as always. So let's get Rob in. Rob, how are we?
Yeah, good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. So, Rob, the final Vardy party. I mean, Rob, after 13 years, obviously you met him day one when he signed for the football club.
I did.
Now,
yeah,
I mean,
there was hardly any sort of media that day. As I remember, there was me, BBC Radio Leicester, and East Midlands Today, pitch side at King Power. And I think the classic thing, and I've mentioned this many times before, is that they were going between kit suppliers at the time. They were just transferring over to Puma, and the kits weren't ready. So he couldn't stand there with the traditional shirts with his name on the back or anything like that. So one of the media staff nipped off to the club shop and came back with a hoodie with LCFC on the front. And it just turns out that was so apt, wasn't it? That was perfect. And I could just remember him wandering around the pitch and just looking around and a little bit in awe, you know, how far he'd come at that stage of his life, and to finally make it to the proper pro ranks. And what an incredible journey it's been all the way through.
Yeah, it's just been incredible. Achieved so much. Obviously, we'll go through his accomplishments and that later on. But let's get the other guest in, Steve. Steve, how are we?
Evening, lads. Yeah, not too bad yourself.
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Steve, last ever Jamie Vardy party then this weekend. It's going to be emotional. 13 years. It's been a cracker, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. So I was there for his debut. So I feel like I'm booking anything quite well. Obviously, he scored against Torquay, so it'd be nice for him to get a goal in this game on Sunday. So,
Rob, I'll let everybody know what you do regarding the Athletic. Any new articles coming out regarding Jamie Vardy or anything like that?
Yeah, obviously there's one all prepared for. Well, it initially was prepared for the 200th goal. He's on 199, so I hope he gets it. Now he's decided that is it on Saturday, because it's obviously his 500th appearance, and it just feels like it would be a nice round number, wouldn't it, to finish off? But yeah, I was there at Torquay as well for number one, and saw his early struggles as well. questioning whether he could make it to the level. He was questioning himself whether he could make it the level. But certainly he did. He's fired up, and I mean, he is the GOAT, isn't he? I mean, I know he hasn't got the goal scoring records, but he is certainly the GOAT in terms of the modern era of Leicester City and what he's achieved. Those trophies. I mean, it's only the League Cup away from the full set for, which really reminds you of how much Leicester have achieved with him in the team. That it's only the League Cup from the complete set of domestic trophies, and obviously the European journeys as well. That in England, I mean, he never let England down. I mean, when they needed him, he popped up with some cracking goals. I mean, I've been doing a piece looking at some of the best goals, and these Leicester goals, but there was one for England in Germany, which was astonishing. You know, a little back.
Yeah, that's my favourite.
Yeah,
great Vardy goal. You know, because it was against Manuel Neuer as well. You know, the world's best goalkeeper at the time. You know, and to
Germany in Germany. I know, it's just credible that, and he repeated that sort of finish against Man City at Man City. I mean, no fans were there, unfortunately, that day because it was behind closed doors, but because of COVID. But you know, I remember Michael Owen said that he's not a natural finisher, and he might not have been at the start. And I think Kevin Phillips had a big influence on him, and David Nugent did as well as a strike partner and his best man at his wedding. Those two had a really big influence on him becoming the player that he did. But obviously, you've got to give him all the credit himself. He's more than just pace in behind and smash it. There's some very cute finishes along the way. Steve,
let's talk about day one. Jamie Vardy signs for Leicester City Football Club on the 18th of May 2012. I'm taking you back here. £1 million from Fleetwood. What was your initial thoughts on the signing of Jamie Vardy when we did bring him in from Fleetwood?
I mean, I was excited, to be fair, you know, because I have a friend that was a fan of Fleetwood at the time, and he was saying that, you know, he's a good player. He wasn't sure how far he'd go. Maybe the Championship was a big step up for him. And he probably would have. He said, "Oh well." I remember at the time saying that maybe a League One, League Two club would have been a better suit for him. And you know, his first season, it was a bit of a struggle, and he scored a couple of goals, which was good. But I feel like him finding his form, like he did when we went up to the Premier League. To be fair, so the first season in the Premier League, he was sort of finding his feet a little bit. But yeah, I remember being excited that we had this. He wasn't a young player, was he? Let's be honest. He was, you know, sort of mid-20s. But you know, as any player that comes into the club, you hope for the best. You hope that they're going to hit the ground running and it will be successful. But you know, nobody had any idea of how successful it was actually going to be. That's for sure.
Rob, I mean, Nigel Pearson had a massive influence. So did Craig Shakespeare. Jamie Vardy didn't feel he could hit the heights at Leicester when he first come. He thought he was struggling, and the best way for him to be would go back out on loan to another club to sort of get a bit more better and that. But Nigel Pearson had a big influence on this from the start, didn't he, Rob? He said to him, "You're going nowhere. We've brought you in, and this is the project."
Total belief. Nigel was had total belief in it. They did and ah initially. I mean, obviously there was a lot of clubs sniffing around him at the time, and the price at Fleetwood were asking £1 million. Obviously, they'd just come up from the National League into League Two, so it was a big fee for a club coming up from that level. Huge record, but they were the ones that were committed to doing it, and that's one of the reasons why we're still here 13 years later and Vardy's still wearing blue, because he feels a debt of gratitude for the club taking that chance on him, spending that money on him, sticking with him when it didn't initially work for him. You know, he had to change a lot in his life around that time. You know, he was that lad from the back streets of Sheffield who had got in trouble with the law and, you know, was working in factories and eating dripping sandwiches at service stations on the way to training sessions and games, playing for non-league football. And but they invested in him becoming a pro. And even when he had those darkest moments, you know, they sat him down and told him that they believed in him and to stick with it, and it would come good. And boy, did it. I mean, what an investment. Is it the wisest £1 million ever spent in English football? I mean, Trevor Francis was the first £1 million striker famously, and he scored a winner in a European Cup final, which is not a bad return for that investment. But that was a lot of money at the time. You know, you fast forward and people are like, I mean, I remember that famous Arsene Wenger quote about Riyad Mahrez. Can you imagine if Arsenal had spent £450,000 on a player that they'd never heard of? There would have been, the Arsenal fans would have been up in saying lack of ambition. We should be competing with the best in the world, for the best in the world. Just making those sound investments at that time. That was what Leicester was all about, and it was the secret to their success. And Vardy's been at the heart of it.
Steve, I mean, we talk about his first goal, Torquay away in the cup. I mean, shaved head Jamie Vardy back then, by the way. He's had a lot of haircuts since, let's be honest. We'll talk about his best and worst later on, but that first goal at Torquay was a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then he picked up. It was his league home debut. He got an assist for the Andy King goal, didn't he? In a win against, was it Peterborough? And then his first goal was Blackburn. Which we lost, I think, in that game. But he definitely sort of showed that he had some quality. He was a good finisher of the ball. But I mean, look, I think I said to you earlier, you saw a tweet earlier that I'd said about him not being good enough for sort of the Championship and League Two. When I went back and checked through my tweets earlier, and I very much wrong, that's for sure. I'm happy to hold my hands up and say I was mistaken with that one. But
Steve, that must have taken you ages to go all the way back 13 years worth of tweets.
Funnily enough, I actually I had it. I went back a few years ago and had it screenshotted, and then I sent it to my dad, and then he sent it to me this morning, being like, "Do you remember when you said this?" And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, Dad. Thanks for that."
He's done the work for you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Dad.
which is I appreciate. So yeah, he was always, there was some signs there. You could see that he wanted to try, but I think the first season maybe snatched it a bit too much. He was a bit sort of hot-headed with his striking, but once he was settled down and had the confidence around him and the players around him as well, you saw how well he could do. I think he had the same. I said earlier with the sort of first season in the Premier League, he was sort of doing the same thing. He was so desperate to score that and the team weren't playing terribly. We just it took a while for us to sort of click into gear, and then when it finally did, the Premier League saw how well he was at sort of finishing, and then off it went really, and then obviously the next season on, we win the league, which nobody ever expected, and it hasn't stopped since. And I'll be honest, I'm just really glad that he ended up getting the Golden Boot in the end, because for me that shows the level that he has been at, and there's no denying it, that's for sure.
Rob, where do you feel it started for Jamie Vardy to kick on? I mean, Steve talks about the Great Escape season, where it really started to go from stride to stride for him going into the Premier League title season. But where do you feel it all started for you?
When it really started to click for him, I think initially was the season they got promoted, and they brought Chris Wood in, and he had a lightning start.
Yeah, and
then suddenly Nige settled on the strike duo of Nuge and Vardy, and I think that was perfect for them. Then around that time, Kev Phillips had obviously come to the club as well, and he was starting to venture into even before he became officially a coach. He used to spend a bit of time with Vardy on the training ground after the training sessions, working on his finishing. And he used to, I've done features with Kev, and he said, at the time he used to snatch at chances. He wanted to put his foot through it, put all the power in the world in it. He wanted to break the back of the net. Yeah. And he just tried to work on him, just calming down a little bit when he was through. Because this is the thing about Vardy, he really does want to try. He's a real trier. He wants to do his very, very best when he's at, he's 100% all the time. And Kev just used to try and get him to settle down in front of goal, be ice cold, be clinical. Wait for the keeper to commit, slide. And then if you look, a great example, I think, of Phillips's influence was his first goal in the Premier League against Man United, when he's through on goal and you think, did the lads put the ball through? He's through on goal. And he just waits for the keeper to go to his right, then just slides it into the near post, side foot. A couple of years before, he probably would have just put his laces through that and tried to break the back of the net. And I just think that was the evolution of Jamie around that time. But again, Nuge was a big influence on him as well. A strike partner that he trusted and liked, and they fed off each other, encouraged each other, and they They were good for each other.
Yeah, lightning quick pace Vardy for that Man United goal. You know, the ball over the top, Vardy's in, and he finishes and goes and slides into the corner. But you talk about partnerships with Nugent. I mean, Steve, Riyad Mahrez. I mean, that partnership built quite nicely over them years.
Well, yeah, it did. You know, I've to be fair, there's quite a few players that you could sort of point out and say they had a nice partnership with Jamie in his whole time at Leicester. You know, Okazaki for one.
Yeah.
You know, Madison.
Albright.
So yeah, but no, obviously with Riyad, I will say I think he's the most talented player we've had at the club. Jamie is clearly the best player to play for Leicester, but I would say Riyad's the most talented. And you know, when they were on the pitch together, I don't think during that season where we won the league, at any point did I think, oh no, you know, we're not going to score here. You know, maybe the Arsenal game where we lost 1-0, which was a bit of a downer, but you know, whenever you got those two on the pitch, you think, okay, they've got a chance. You know, we could score quite easily. And then yeah, just the pace of them both, and imagine those two running at you. You know, one with the skills and the other one just with the raw pace, and not only just the raw pace, just knowing it's Jamie Vardy. You know, he's going to kick you if he gets the chance as well.
The thing about Mahrez was he figured out you got to play Vardy in early.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at some of the goals at West Brom, the classic one against Liverpool, you know, Vardy, Mahrez is picking the ball up quite deep and he's just turning and playing it. He's not hanging on to it. He's not, you know, he knows, because that's the thing about Vardy. He wants the ball played early for him, especially in those days because of his pace. You know, you didn't want wingers that were going to like dally on the ball. He wanted it early, and that's why he fed off Michael Brighton. Michael Brighton is up there, you know, in terms of the assists for Vardy in his Leicester career, because Jamie knew that that Mark's going to get the ball out of his feet and whip it in early, whether it be near post, back post. So he makes his run. He knows when to make his run. What strikers hate is when they don't know and they go and have to come back and go again and check back nice and early. And that's what Mahrez and Brighton always did.
Let's have a look at his career, Jamie Vardy's career. Here we go. So 499 Leicester City appearances, 199 goals, Premier League winner, FA Cup winner, Community Shield winner, 2 times Championship winner, Premier League Golden Boot, Premier League Player of the Season 15-16, Premier League Player of the Month 3 times, Ballon d'Or 8th place in 2016, scoring in 11 consecutive Premier League games, joint 14th in the Premier League all-time scorers, and the most goals scored by a player after turning 30 in the Premier League. I mean, Steve, talk to me about all of Vardy's accomplishments and that, mate, looking at the career stats.
Well, to me, you wouldn't have thought that when he signed for the club, would you? Let's be, you know, I was saying to a friend earlier that it's just imagine 12 years ago that our greatest ever player, you'd see our greatest ever player play, you know, for Leicester City in your lifetime, coincide with the most successful period in your club's history as well, and you know, it's incredible that we've been able to see somebody win the Premier League Golden Boot. You know, it doesn't happen for a Leicester City player. Let's be honest. Or okay, the Premier League and the FA Cup. You know, those things they're so beyond what you expect as a football fan of a smaller club like Leicester. But to have somebody come along and do it in your lifetime in the last 13 years, and all of those things, you know, even 8th place in the Ballon d'Or, like that blows my mind. You know, and I just. It beggars belief, genuinely. I sit here sometimes and I think to myself, like, I've had it pretty good. You know, I've seen Vardy score a lot of goals. You know, I've seen him play for the club. I've seen the most successful time in my life. And I was saying to a friend earlier that just imagine you bring your child to your first football game next season and there's no Jamie Vardy. Just how sad that makes me feel. Like, you know, there's going to be kids that go next year that won't get to see the greatest player in our history. You know, and yeah, it's just honestly, it blows my mind seeing all those things pop up on screen. It really does.
Rob, Jamie Vardy's career. I mean, how do you sum it up, Rob, in one word if you had to describe it?
Astonishing. I mean, and the loyalty. I mean, what stands out for me as well. I mean, we live in a modern era of the game where, you know, money talks. As I've said to you before, players aren't they're freelancers. You know, they're mercenaries in many ways. They play for the highest bidder, and he's had several opportunities to go. I mean, I was lucky enough to be there for his first press conference, which wasn't really a press conference. There was only a couple of journalists there. It was just a chat on the side of the pitch. His first goal at Torquay. I remember being in Santa Monica, and I stayed in the hotel next to the team hotel for that week when they played PSG, and that was the week he decided to turn down Arsenal, and he came very close to going to Arsenal, and they were offering him a lot more money than Leicester were offering him, but he had a sense of loyalty and a feeling that he had to repay the faith that the club had paid in him. So and we sat in a closed off little dining room just off the main lobby, and he spoke very candidly about that decision, why he turned Arsenal down and decided to stick with Leicester at that time, which was huge because, you know, N'Golo Kante went, Mahrez gave it. It was convinced by Kumvichai to give it one more year, and then he wanted to go, and Jamie never did. You know, yeah, and he's got to this stage where 13 years later, you know, we're reaching the end. I mean, he's still going to go on and play somewhere else.
Yeah,
but he won't be playing in the EFL. You know, he's not going to Wrexham. He's not going to Sheffield Wednesday, because if he was going to drop down to that level, he would stick with Leicester.
Yeah,
you know, he's going to seek a new last adventure before he finally hangs up his boots. But I think that level of loyalty is incredibly rare in the modern game.
it is. 13 years is a big sort of amount of time, isn't it, Steve, for any footballer? I mean, you only see players these days stay for about maybe 2, probably even a season sometimes. You look at Vardy's career, and he's turned down Arsenal, he's turned down Saudi Arabian clubs and that, because he ain't interested in going there. He'd rather stay here. But talk to me about Vardy's loyalty to Leicester.
Well, that's something that has always surprised me, to be honest, because as Rob said, you know, they are sort of independent contractors, you know, and I did I'll be honest, once we won the league and the season after, I thought maybe he would go to a bigger club, quote unquote, you know. But then again, I guess you look at the clubs that he could have gone to, and where would he have sort of fitted in? Maybe at Man City, sort of, you know, if they were a bit more sort of attacking with Aguero. I don't know, but yeah, it is unexpected for a player of that quality to stay at a club. And also, when we went down, you know, I think he had, you know, some unfinished business to make sure we got back up again. You know, and it is really sad that we've got a second relegation on his CV, because I don't think he deserves it.
No.
You know, maybe the decision to stay on last season, you know, maybe should have gone with the promotion back to the Premier League and sort of said goodbye then. But no, I mean, look, I'm never going to say an extra year of Jamie Vardy scoring, you know, 9, potentially 10 goals in the Premier League, you know, and be there for the majority of those goals that he scored. You know, I'm never going to say, oh, I don't want to see that. No, of course I want to see that. And it would have been nice for us to have stayed up and maybe give another year, sort of, if he can beat Owen's record. But yeah, it is nice that he's had that sort of loyalty towards Leicester, and that he's wanted to repay the club that had so much faith in him, and he's done that tenfold. You know, let's be honest, there'll be no other player like Jamie Vardy in my lifetime that I can think of.
I agree. I don't think I'll see another Jamie Vardy at Leicester City. I don't think we will.
I mean,
let's be honest.
He's unique, isn't he, Jackie? I mean, he's unique in the game, not just at Leicester City. He's unique in the game. His backstory, the player he is, the way he lives his lifestyle, how he prepares for games. There's nobody like him, you know, with the Red Bulls and the espressos and you know, and sleeping in an oxygen tent, and, you know, spending his summers. Well, a lot of players go off with personal trainers and keep training throughout the summer. He sits on the sofa and has a few beers and just chills out. He's got a vegetable garden. How many professional footballers, well, Premier League footballers of his stature, have a vegetable garden? It's he's unique. He's a one-off. I mean, he's a freak of nature, and that's why he's still here at his age, playing in the Premier League. And I think that's where he would like to play next season. in the Premier League, and still do it for another year at another club. And that, I think the relegation has like sort of brought this to a head in many ways, which is on the club, you know, for so many failed decisions. But that's for another day. But this is a Jamie Vardy conversation. But you'll never see the like of him again.
I think this story of Vardy from grassroots to the top, it's a Hollywood blockbuster. It will be. You'll get the Netflix documentary and everything, and you'll watch it back. And he always talks, Steve, in his interview earlier on. They said to him, do you sort of reminisce these things? Do you look back on things? And he said, you haven't got time to look back on it as a player. You've got to keep moving. He said, when I retire, then I'll take a moment to look back on everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got so much that he can look back on. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's not many players that'll sign for his first professional deal at 24. Then go on to achieve what he's gone on to achieve. So, yeah, I would like to see him in the Premier League. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be very sad seeing him play for any other club that isn't Leicester. Wearing any other coloured shirt. It's not nice. A thought, but yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. If he goes and signs for a Premier League club and he gets enough goals to get past Michael Owen, hey, I'm all for it. I'll always love Jamie Vardy for the player that he is. And I just hope if that's the last thing he achieves in his football career, where he beats Owen's record and he lifts his shirt up and it just says not a natural finisher on it, fair, give it to him. That's what I say.
When he retires, he has to be the first guest on the final. Do you know what, Ross? I've asked his partner, I've spoken to many occasions about that type of thing, but she said that's all down to him. So whether it happens or not in the future, who knows? I think I'd love to sit down and chat with him personally about everything and all the moments and that, but that's for another time now. But Rob, I mean, Jamie Vardy, the biggest shithouse in football. What's like your best Jamie Vardy celebration, Rob? I know you talk about the Wolves howling celebration at the KP years back. You look at the Crystal Palace one where we did the Eagles celebration. He's the biggest wind-up merchant, and with away fans, they'll give it him so much, and he'll always say, if you can give it, you can take it back. But he's always one of them players. You love him playing for you, but you'd hate him playing against you.
I love the guitar celebration with the corner flag. That was quite a good one. But I think because of the amount of stick and the history, the one this season where he was pointing at the Premier League badge against the Tottenham fans. I mean, that was you got to admire his cheek. I mean, he takes so much stick, but he gives it back. And fans, opposition fans, love to boo him. And that chant, I always sit there and say the same thing when the away fans chant about about Becky and I just think, God, you're asking for it. He's gonna, what he's gonna do invariably. What was the game where he ran the whole length of the pitch after they'd been giving him stick? And he scored the Cop end and he ran all the way up to the away end. What was that game?
Well, he scored the penalty last season.
Yeah, and he just ran all the way up the pitch to celebrate in front of them.
I remember Burnley at home. They were giving him so much stick and all, and he ripped the Cop end and he'd scored, and he'd ran to the halfway line and that, and he probably gave it.
Yeah, I mean, he stands up for himself.
Sheffield United is my favourite.
Yeah,
he did, but he just stood there.
That picture of like you behind him and all the fans in front of him all giving the V's and stuff. Oh, I love that.
And he just stood there, didn't he? Frozen, and just like took it all in.
Yeah.
Interesting story, because obviously he hasn't had many opportunities to go back to Sheffield Wednesday. He came out to do a post-match press conference, and he was waiting pitchside, and I was waiting pitchside for something else. So I just started to have a little chat with him, and I said to him, "Where did you sit?" And he used to tell me where he used to sit, and then he started to tell me where at the ground where they used to break in and play on the pitch at night and things like that. He was going back to his manor at Hillsborough. That's where he grew up, and that was him though. When you caught him in those moments when he was just like relaxed and would just chat to you, he's just so candid. And I mean, in fact, I remember the first time I spoke to him at the King Power, I asked him, because obviously Nigel Pearson was the manager, big Wednesday hero, captain, fantastic for them. And I said, have you ever met Nigel before? And he went, yeah, I have. And I said, where? He said, on the pitch at Hillsborough. I ran on the pitch during the game and hugged him and mobbed him. And his agent just walked straight over to me and went, please don't print that. 13 years later, I can say it, can't I? But yeah, he was like, because that was him. He was fanboy. He was just down to earth. He was just one of the guys in the stands, just the same as them. And I think that's always been his secret.
It's just the pinnacle of football. You know, he goes down as the greatest, or one of the greatest Premier League ever strikers. You know, you look at the goals and the goals that he scored more than, like your Anelkas and people like that, and you think, yeah, them footballers were great back in the day. And then you look at this generation of footballers, and you got Jamie Vardy over sort of coming them players. But you know, people say, yeah, but if he'd gone to a bigger club, he'd get them more credit. He probably would, but doing it where he is with Leicester, and people call us Little Leicester and whatever, it's just magnificent to see, isn't it, Steve, that he's achieved it at Leicester and not a big enterprise like a Man City, a Man United or someone like that. He's actually done it at a reasonable club.
Well, yeah, I actually think that goes in his favour, because I've got it's not bragging. I've got a lot of friends that follow different football clubs. You know, I've played football with a lot of them, and I don't think any one of those have said like, oh, well, you know, he should have gone to a bigger club. You know, they all are quite happy that he stayed at Leicester and did what he did at Leicester. You know, even my brother, who's a Forest fan, said that, like, you know, it just means more because it's a small local, a small in quotes, you know, local club.
Yeah.
You know, it's not one of these big global entities like City and United and Liverpool and whatever. And yes, you know, they're expected to win these things. They're expected to have the best players around them, you know, but a club like Leicester isn't expecting to have, you know, the Premier League player of the season or you know, or a Golden Boot winner or, you know, these sort of players. And yeah, I think a lot of fans that you speak to will be like, you know what, it does mean a lot more coming from a smaller club, because they can then imagine that sort of player playing for their club, you know, and that, I think that means a lot. You know, it is nice to have that sort of player play for Leicester, and yeah, it gives everyone else the chance to dream, and that's something you always want as a football fan, just dreaming of the potential of you winning a big trophy like the FA Cup, like Premier League. I didn't expect us to win the Premier League ever. You know, that's not something you ever think about. But growing up, I was always sort of FA Cup. I wanted to win the FA Cup. That was a dream as a young lad. And, you know, and to finally see it happen. And that picture with him holding the FA Cup in his hand, like, I've got that on my wall in my living room, you know, and it's signed by him because, you know, it's so iconic. So, yeah, it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Ross goes on to say, Jamie Vardy is the first and only player to score 2 hat-tricks against the Guardiola side on 2 separate occasions. He also says he's the only man to play in all FA Cup rounds.
I know. I think I did a feature on that. Every one of those experiences that he had. I did that before the cup final, because he was, you know, obviously he's going to be the first player to go from every level of the FA Cup all the way through to the final. I mean, that is an astonishing feat. And when you look at all his accolades and everything he's achieved, I think that should be right up there, because that shows his journey. That illustrates where he's come from and where he's finished up. And that only comes through, you know, dedication, commitment, confidence, belief, and having great support around you as well. But yeah, that is an astonishing record that I hope he's very, very proud of.
Yeah, I agree. Let's have a look at Jamie Vardy's goals. I mean, let's have a look at his first goal, Torquay away in 2012. 50th goal, Everton at home. Obviously before we lifted the Premier League title. I mean, he could have had a hat-trick that day, couldn't he, Rob? Vardy. He could have added one more to his
he scored that penalty, didn't he? Over the stand, pretty much.
100th goal versus Fulham at home in 2019. His 150th goal in a 2-1 defeat at Brighton in 2021. And then the 199th is obviously recent against Southampton.
One of his better finishes as well. 199th goal, and it's still one of up there with a great finish. You know, slightly a little bit behind him, bouncing. I had to take it on the volley on his weaker foot and put it in the top corner. I mean, that was a great finish.
You know, my favorite Leicester goal that he scored, though, hands down, is the goal against Preston where he smashed it from a yard out and slipped over. Oh, incredible shithouse that was.
And he did that slide at the end at full time and hit his head into the board.
Yeah.
He's a character. He is. You cannot love him. This is the thing. Even as an opposition fan, you know, you'll get the Ipswich fans applauding him at the weekend because they'll show gratitude to what he's achieved and what a career he's had.
I hope so. I hope the Ipswich fans get involved as well.
Yeah,
it's going to be a poignant day. And it's going to be about more than both clubs. It's going to be about saying goodbye to a legend.
Rob, Jamie Vardy's goals then. I mean, if you had to pick the top 5 of his goals.
Which I have done for an article that will probably be running on Monday.
Oh, fantastic. You've had it prepared for me then without asking. But 199 goals, which is his top 5.
Well, I've certainly got... and there's a difference between iconic in terms of what he's all about, running in behind, and you know those. I mean, I'll give you one from the run. I mean, a lot of people will go with the one where against Man United when he actually broke the record, but I've picked the one at Newcastle when he's taken the ball wide. He's played a 1-2 with Leo Joa. He's cut inside 2 people. He's not just in the 6-yard box or running in behind and finish. He can create chances for himself as well. And he certainly did then. He cut, I think it was a little Megs on one of the defenders, and then he beats the keeper at the near post with a low finish and great celebration afterwards as well. So that's one of mine. And obviously everybody knows the Liverpool one, the dip it. But there's so many. I mean, one against Bournemouth, the one against West Bromwich Albion when it's dipping over his shoulder and he's just took it. Not even looked at the goal. He knows exactly where the goal is and just in one motion guided it into the bottom corner. That's a great finish. I really liked the one against Southampton. Just, because that's the sort of underrated finish that sometimes people forget. I've talked about the back heel for England against Germany. He's a goal scorer that can score lots of different goals. Types of goals. Yeah. Headers as well. He scored, I think, looking at his stats, he scored 7 outside the box, which people don't realise he can also strike the ball.
He's a poacher.
So, he scored all sorts of different goals, but a lot of them, and the penalties, he's got a high number of penalties as well that he's converted. And I always think when he's got a penalty, just smash it. And I talked about, his secret of his success has been learning not to smash it and guide it. But when he's taking a penalty, when he just runs up and smashes it, brilliant. 9 times out of 10, that's in the net. Yeah, he's got loads of different types of goals and special moments.
Steve, I mean, your top 5 Vardy goals.
So I have a special love for the goal against Spurs where he lobbed the keeper.
Yes.
Sort of ball up in the air and he sort of lobs it over him from there. The Southampton goal was quite nice. I said the Preston goal as well. There's so many of them. It's very hard to pick a favourite one. It's that feeling that, when you score a goal, it always feels the same. It always feels magical. And that could be Vardy scoring or Cody at the weekend or whoever. But I'd be very difficult to pick out because Rob's mentioned quite a lot that were just technically fantastic goals, and all different types of goals. So it's very difficult to pick out one or even a top 5, really. I'd have to go through them all again and actually, I probably will at some point next week. I'll sit down and watch all the goals again because, I like to put my wife through some torture. So, she'll enjoy that, no doubt. But yeah, I just hope he scores on Sunday. That'll be my favourite goal. If he scores on Sunday, the atmosphere and the celebration, it will. I think it'd be fitting. That's for sure.
Yeah, it would.
I've got one. The Great Escape season, West Brom away.
Yeah.
90th minute, and he just absolutely gets on it. Gareth McCauley's going to get him, and he's gone straight inside, bang into the corner.
A left-footed finish as well.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I thought we were actually going to do that against Nottingham Forest. He actually got the ball in that position. I thought, will he hit it? And he kind of like went inside his right foot. I think he just drill it past the keeper.
So is that the one where he tried to play it out wide again?
Mm.
And it went out for a goal kick. Yeah, he was kicking himself after that one, wasn't he?
He scored so many goals, like the Man United one, the 11-11, and he points to himself. He's like, "It's me," you know. And then the Martin Tyler commentary that comes with it. It's 11, it's heaven for Jamie Vardy. You know, to think a Leicester player smashed the record, Rob. I mean, you talk about that ball from Christian Fuchs, the no-look pass into Vardy, and Vardy just drills it past De Gea. It's just incredible moments for him.
Summed up that season because it was a great counter-attack, lightning quick, only a couple of touches and the ball's in the net. And you've gone the length of the pitch because they've just been defending in their own box. Fuchs breaks out, takes a couple of touches, plays that ball through. Vardy takes one touch, plays it at his feet, and then finishes. That summed up that season.
It's like the one against Burnley. Do you know where Matty Taylor had missed the penalty?
Yeah.
And then Vardy's up your friend and scores.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? It's moments like that you actually forget about as a fan because you know about him as a goal scorer. You just think all these Liverpool goals, Chelsea goals, wherever he scored against, he's got one of the best goal ratios against the top six, and even most goals. So he's up there. But all the goals that he does score, like the Everton one that he'd scored.
Well, the one against Sevilla in the first leg was quite important.
Yeah.
You know, to score there, because I thought we were out of it until we scored, and it brought it back to our place, and probably the greatest European night we've ever had. So it set that up.
And then the Atletico Madrid one where he absolutely smashes it.
Yep. Still wrangles me to this day that was given as a penalty in the first leg.
Yeah,
when it was out of the box. But hey, it's all in history in the history books now.
It is. Let's have a look at Jamie Vardy's goals. First league goal, Blackburn away, 2012. Premier League 100 club goal in 2022. Premier League 11-11 in 2015. I mean, the Premier League 100 club, Rob, for a player of not a Man City player or a Liverpool player or something like that, for him to get in the Premier League 100 club, I think that was a goal against, was it Crystal Palace, was it, where Harvey Barnes set him up?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's done it it's a Leicester striker that's in that club. Just shows, illustrates what a ride it's been. And I've been incredibly lucky. I mean, 16 seasons I've been covering Leicester now. And it has been the greatest era in the club's history, without doubt. And all the trophies that he can display in that iconic photo that the club set up when he announced that he was leaving, just demonstrated it. I mean, that he had that little plate with all the badges of all the clubs he scored against in the 11, as well as the Premier League trophy and the FA Cup, and he's done it all really for the club.
He has. He's had a journey. That's the main thing. And you'll look back on Sunday, and you'll think, yeah, what a great player we've ever had. They talk about him as the greatest of all time as a Leicester City player. They call him the GOAT. And then someone asked him about that the other day. I think one of the interview blokes for LCFC TV said to him, "You're the GOAT." He said, "Well, that's what you call me, innit?" And they said, "Would you agree, Jamie?" He said, "Yeah, no comment on that." But this is who he is, isn't it? I think he's very honourable. He's respectful. He's always one of them who he calls himself emotionless. He don't really get emotion.
He's very different. The public persona in terms of like when he does interviews, he will reveal a little bit of himself, but the rest of the time, he can be very cautious about what he says. He's got to. I mean, how many times have you heard him say, well, we've got to get back on the training ground, work hard, and he does all that. But then when you talk to him away from the camera, away from a microphone, he is the guy that you imagine he is in terms of, he's very lively, very comical. Will take the mickey. I mean, just speaking to other people that know him. He's a very physical presence around the training ground. He's especially around when it was at Beaver Drive. You know, he was the voice that everybody heard because there was like a maze of corridor. Beaver Drive, you went in the main reception and you turned left to go down towards the canteen and then turn right to go down to the dressing rooms. So he'd be in the dressing room or the canteen and all you'd hear was him taking the mickey out of people as they come in or whatever. And Birchie used to have his office right by reception. So he would be there as well. And so when Vardy came in and Birch was there, and you can imagine what that was like, that exchange would be like. But at Seagrave, it'd still be very physical presence. You know, the manager's office is on the second floor overlooking the training pitch that they use, the first team use. You know, like managers have told me that they've been in the office and there's been a bang on the window and it's Vardy kicking balls at the glass and things like that. You know, he's just a very lively character still. You know, he's still got that mischievous side. He's still got that personality about it. But if you see him doing match of the day or you see him, you know, he's very controlled and he doesn't give much away. And then the mics are turned off and he's a totally different character.
Steve, I mean, let's get on to this Sunday. It's going to be an emotional one. Are you more of a fairy tale man? Do you believe in fairy tales at all? Because this weekend's going to mark his 13th year as a Leicester City player since signing from Fleetwood for £1 million back in 2012. He'll mark his 500th appearance for the club. He sits on 199 goals. If he gets his 200th, what a way to go out on his 500th appearance and his last ever appearance for the club, marking his 13th year at the club.
I mean, it would be nice. I'm not going to lie. It would be an incredible way of ending your career at Leicester. But I don't think anybody would be disappointed if he didn't score, mainly because of the fact that like he's given so much for the club anyway, and just will give him a sort of send off no matter what. I'm just hoping it's not like a John Terry situation where he goes off in the 9th minute to all the applauses, and then we get a penalty in the 15th minute, sort of thing. You know, that would be very sad.
It can't be that. He has to get to 200.
Yes, I would like the 200th goal. You know, I think the stadium would erupt. I think there could be another earthquake. Situation, you know, and it would be lovely. But look, you know, I am quite an emotional person, and you know, I probably will shed a few tears on Sunday.
With you, Steve, on Sunday, mate. I'm with you. Don't worry about it.
My wife said to me, "Do I need to?" Because she's not a Leicester fan. She doesn't follow football at all, but she knows how important it is to me. And she said, "Do you want me to come on Sunday and drive you back?" I was like, "Well, no, we're not. I'm not going to drive into a central reservation or anything. You know, it's going to be very sad, but yeah, it is. There will be a lot of people shedding some tears on Sunday, and I will be one of them for sure."
It's poetic, isn't it, Rob? Obviously signed 18th of May 2012, and he plays his final ever Leicester City game on the 18th of May 2025, where Jamie Vardy gets 200th Leicester City goal. What a way to go out for him. I mean, it's got to happen, hasn't it, Rob? Surely
it would be the fairy tale, Jack. It would be
that happens.
To get the 200th in his 500th
it's written
on the same date that he signed for the club. Yeah, that would be the fairy tale ending. And I wonder if that Hollywood producer that I've spoken to over the years that's still doing it, well, still planning to do the Jamie Vardy movie, will kick that into gear now. Because the time's right, isn't it? I mean, it's a special story.
It's a real special story, you know. For what he's done, we're going to be forever thankful. And when that final whistle blows and he has got that 200th goal, and he does start to do his lap of honour, and that's where the kids start to share and we say thank you. And they might even give him a microphone. You know what he's like when he's on the microphone, and that he'll probably give it to the bloody Ipswich fans and that, and he'll thank
just don't
them.
give it to his kid. That's what we make sure that doesn't happen.
But no, it's going to be an emotional afternoon Sunday. His last ever game. But anything, Rob? Do you think the club will put on for Jamie Vardy. Obviously, there have been spoken about, obviously, the TIFO, what was prepared last season by the Union FA, so obviously do a good job on them type of things. But, I mean, the club have obviously paid for their own, haven't they?
Yeah, there's going to be some special things. All I can say to the fans is get there early and make sure you don't leave early. Hang around at the end as well. There's going to be a full-on Jamie Vardy fest.
It's going to be a proper party, and you've got to make it right for his last one, haven't you, Steve?
You do, yeah. Make sure you don't bring any of the vodka or the Charlie, though. Let's be honest, you know. You won't get through the
door. No Skittles vodka.
I think you'll deserve that at full time.
Leave that outside the ground.
That's good, but it's going to be an emotional one. We say goodbye to a legend, a footballing great, an icon, and a real shithouse. And Rob, if you had to describe him in one word, the man himself, what would you describe him as?
He's absolute. Well, legend would be my word. I mean, the way he's carved this career for himself from nothing. It'd be astonishing. It's an astonishing story. It deserves to be a Hollywood film. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what he's achieved, he's not gone through a full academy. He was released by Sheffield Wednesday when he was 16. Fell out of love with football, and then got back into football, just playing with his mates on a park pitch, and it's led all the way to the records that we've talked about here. It's an absolute astonishing career.
Steve, we'll let you have the last word. I've only met him once in my life, and that was he used to live in Melton, near the sort of grammar school where I used to go. And obviously, when we won the league, all the players were at the house, sort of thing, and celebrating. Now I was up there. That's not when I met him. I actually met him 6 or 7 weeks later in the local Sainsbury's in Melton. And I remember walking around and I saw him. I was like, "Oh my god, nobody's noticed it. That's Vardy." So I walked up and he had a hat on. And I was like, "Oh, all right, Jamie, can I get a picture?" And he told me to piss off because he's being incognito sort of thing. But he had a smile on his face, which I was joking sort of thing. I was like, "Look, fair enough. You with your family. I'll leave you to it." And then I walked round the next. We sort of met again 2 aisles later, sort of thing. And quick, before no one else sees it. So yeah, I'll be forever grateful for what he's done for the club. And there's never been a player that I think gets it like Jamie Vardy does with the club. And it will be very, very sorely missed and hard to replace going forward.
It's immortal. It's a privilege, and he's gave me the greatest ever moments as a Leicester City fan. To watch him from day one to now. I mean, it shows how old I've got. From when he first started to leaving the club now. It's been a great journey to watch him on that journey and watch him do what he's done. It's just been incredible, and like I say, I'll be forever thankfully what he's done for these last 13 years for this football club, because he's been the backbone. And Leicester's greatest ever of all time, in my opinion. But love him to bits, and it's going to be an eye-watering one at the weekend. But Steve, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. And I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Wonderful. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Rob.
Yeah.
Me and you then.
I've got to go. I've got to go, mate. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. I've got to go. I've got another thing to do.
Fantastic. Rob, go and enjoy Sunday, mate.
Thank you.
Don't cry too much.
I'll speak to you soon.
That was Rob Tanner. Thanks to Steve as well. The final Vardy party then on Sunday as Jamie Vardy plays his last ever game in a Leicester City shirt. What an emotional one it's going to be. And some tears are going to be shed. I'll try and get enough videos and that. I'm tearing up now. Try and get enough videos and that of Jamie Vardy's farewell and that during the weekend. There will be a match day vlog. Cheers for having me on. Cheers, Steve, mate. Good evening. The one and only. Who we're going to get to replace him? I don't know, mate, to be fair. It's got to be someone good. We'll have the match day vlog. As we'll chat with the Suffolk Crunch tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Join us for that as we chat with Rich about Jamie Vardy, the game against Ipswich and everything else. 4,748 days Jamie Vardy's been here. On the 18th of May 2012 to the 18th of May 2025, it will mark. So yeah, 13 years. It will mark an incredible 13 years for Jamie Vardy as he says farewell to Leicester City. But thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you again soon. Hi all, thank you for watching The Final Whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share and subscribe to the channel.